You were so fun. And my friend said, I actually am a little bit of a handful. And he said, do tell, with a little tongue out emoji.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I'm here today with a double recap for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And Bronwyn is coming in swinging. And she starts off in episode 2 when she's basically shit-talking Whitney during a car ride with Lisa and Heather. And Heather does not like this whatsoever. And she kind of goes on the defensive against Bronwyn. Now, I don't think that Heather is, unjust in her opinions about Bronwyn. You know, she's kind of, a little untrusting. Whitney thinks that Heather's being like this because of Monica, essentially, which Heather doesn't really deny. But the thing is about Heather, the audience isn't really feeling her right now. And to be honest, the cherry on top is the whole receipts, proof, screenshots, timeline, whatever the fuck. She's just trying to market this. Bravo is trying to really push this, and it is just so annoying. Anyways, Heather goes on the defensive against Bronwyn. But it's kind of odd because later in this same episode, Heather actually says some shit on the lines of oh, just because I love Whitney doesn't mean that I like her. So, what the fuck, dude? And mind you, they're all oh, we're cousins, we're blood, we're family. They didn't meet until they were adults. They didn't know they were related until later on. They're, very distantly related. And it's you didn't grow up with each other. It's okay, Heather, if you don't like Whitney, fucking say that. But don't be oh, I don't like her, but we're blood, we're family, we're so close. You didn't even know her 8 years ago. What? And despite my feelings about Heather and just being annoyed with her basically, I do have to admit that she's trying to be a friend. She's trying to have Whitney's back, but it backfires because Whitney is cool with Bronwyn. Bronwyn said this exact same shit to Whitney's face, so it's I'm not talking shit. I said it to her. I'm standing in that shit, So Heather's trying to be a friend, but it's it just feels so performative. Cause just be there for Whitney in general, but you're trying to be her guard dog and shit while saying that you don't like her. You were just going against her, calling her a liar at the dinner table. I don't know where Heather's mind is at with the whole situation, but I'm enjoying Bronwyn coming in swinging, basically. And we'll get to that a bit later on when Bronwyn takes on Lisa. But for now, Heather is just really not feeling Bronwyn. She feels like Bronwyn is hitting the scene, talking all this shit. She doesn't even know Whitney. And Heather, although she doesn't like Whitney, she is taking issue with this. Basically, oh, I could say that about her, but you can't. Which, I get on the one hand. But as Bronwyn points out at the end of episode 3, it's you guys are Whitney's longtime friends. And you talking shit about her isn't worse. I barely know her. And yeah, I had this weird first impression of her, but it is what it is. And that's really true. It's Bronwyn doesn't really know Whitney. She doesn't have that loyalty to Whitney. And while Heather, trying to defend Whitney's honor, if you will, is okay, it's a commendable, effort, it kind of falls flat considering your own feelings about Whitney. You know what I mean? Anyways, we then check in with Mary, and she discusses her son, Robert. He's 21, and a news article came out. I think it was by Reality T, something like that. But he reportedly checked himself into a rehab facility, so that's going on, and she notes that he's not doing anything right now. He's not working, not going to school. He asked her for money, and kind of similar to Jen Padranti on Orange County, Mary's also being really honest. She's yeah, Robert is super sheltered, and that's my fault. She's not sitting here oh, why aren't you doing anything? Comparing him to other kids and shit, because she's no, I get it. I made him this way. It is what it is. She also notes that she'll give him the boot one day, but for now, she's happy he's here. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on right now. In episode 3, when they're in Milwaukee, he actually calls her, asking her to cash out him $60, this whole thing. So yeah, that's going on with her situation. We then see Meredith and Seth. They go to a cooking class, and Meredith reveals that she wants to get bat mitzvahed. It's something that happens when you're 12 or 13, but she notes that she just wants to embrace it at this point in her life, and so they're talking about that and whatnot. Seth gets really emotional. He's oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. You're making this commitment, and again, it's something that people do like, oh, it's your coming of age thing. Like, it's just kind of something that you do, but Meredith is choosing to do it, basically. So that's a big deal for her. We see Lisa and Angie. They meet up, and real quickly, Lisa's upset with Angie for, spilling the beans to Whitney and sharing that, oh, Lisa has an issue with you. But it's like, she gave Whitney a heads up, but what, so you're upset with her for, letting Whitney get her shit together, basically? I don't know. Lisa's just looking for an issue. But Angie says that she told Whitney so that she could have a chance to apologize so they could move forward. Just trying to give her, a heads up so she can get ahead of it. But it's like, well, that didn't work out because Whitney didn't reach out to Lisa. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe Angie saying that, to be honest. It's okay to, yeah, I gave her a heads up. She's my homegirl, whatever. But Lisa just can't get past Angie sharing this conversation with Whitney. She's just cannot get past that. And as they continue talking, Angie accuses Lisa of being hard to talk to honestly. It's hard to be honest with you because you flip out. And Angie also speculates that Heather had Lisa's back to try to impress her, basically. Maybe to impress her isn't the right word, but to show her loyalty to Lisa, essentially. And Lisa denies this, and she also notes that there's this widespread perception that she's a villain. It just keeps getting perpetuated, and she claims that that's an easy out. Her being labeled a villain is an easy way to, help others avoid accountability. Make Lisa culpable, basically, that type of shit. And in turn, Angie says that is just people's experience with Lisa. We don't paint you out to be the villain. You just wind up being the villain over and over again. And later on, Whitney, when she's confronted about how, Meredith, Heather, and Lisa all have these things to say about Whitney, it's if multiple people are having the same thing to say about you, maybe it's time to look in the mirror, you know what I mean? You can be oh no, that's just they're being biased, or that was a different situation, but if it's a pattern, you can't ignore that. And it seems like that's what Lisa's trying to do. She's not trying to acknowledge that, hey, maybe I look bad for a fucking reason. So yeah, that happens, and Lisa's just I'm in my late 40s, this is who I am, I'm not gonna change, blah, 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 and she storms off. We then check with Bronwyn real quickly, and she is rich. Her husband, so Bronwyn's 38, her husband is 27 years older than her, and he's a tech OG. He was a part of the Palm Pilot, this OG cell phone type thing. I have no idea. It is well before my time, basically. But he was a big part of that. He was the CEO of that company, actually. So that happened. She's been with him for the past 10 years, I believe. And we also learned that she got pregnant at 19 while she was at BYU. Her daughter's father just isn't around whatsoever. And her fashion sense already kind of hinted at this, but Bronwyn's home is very eclectic. She's giving Margaret Joseph's home a run for her money, basically. Then see Heather and Whitney. They meet up at this crystal shop and whatever, and they discuss the Bessel's party drama. And Heather says that Whitney doesn't give a fuck about her friendships, that she just keeps wreaking havoc in the name of her healing journey, basically. And she adds that, she's just super frustrated with Whitney right now, and she just doesn't, know what the fuck is going on. And this is where she says that just because she loves Whitney doesn't mean that she likes her. And I'm you're talking as though she's your sister, or your, a cousin you actually grew up with. I'm sorry, but the whole oh yeah, we share a great grandfather. I'm you didn't grow up with each other. You weren't you had similar experiences, but I don't know, the whole oh, we're cousins, it doesn't really hold much water with me. And again, not to harp too much on it, because it's their family dynamic, but it's oh, we have a great grandfather we met when we were 30 years old. It's okay, but you're saying, oh, I love her, but I don't like her. You guys are basically friends more than cousins. You have to like each other. Okay, Heather, it was just so weird of her to say. And mind you, she's over here saying she doesn't like Whitney, but she's getting all fucking upset at Bronwyn for talking shit about Whitney, and just kind of lightheartedly, jokingly, I don't get it, to be honest. And yeah, Whitney says that she wishes that Heather wouldn't have piled on, because Lisa, Heather, Meredith all coming at her. And she wishes that Heather wouldn't have joined in on it. But she admits that maybe she has to look at her role in this situation. 3 of her good friends are here talking shit to her. They can't all be wrong, basically. And she acknowledges that, which is, a big step. And Whitney then mentions an upcoming Milwaukee trip that she's hosting, and it's going to be another thing with Trixie Mattel. They have, this gay bar up there, so she does have a whole trip around it. And mind you, it is, the dead of winter. Everyone's like, oh, great. Somewhere even fucking colder. Amazing. And while discussing the trip, Whitney adds that she really likes Bronwyn. She feels like they're really hitting it off and connecting. And Heather just gets this big old fucking red flag. She's like, Bronwyn's just talking shit about you. So that goes down. And Heather notes that she's going to be throwing an outdoor ropes activity course type events, just to get everyone together ahead of the trip. Kind of test the waters, because the Bestels party didn't end well, so they're kind of like, let's kind of test the temperature, basically. We then see a quick home scene with Meredith. She's in the kitchen with her kids, and they're making, bath bombs. Actually, they're testing out, different recipes for bath bombs. And it's so funny, because just hearing Meredith and two of her 3 kids speak, it's just, they're all, in that same droning cadence. Oh my gosh, it's just crazy. Heather and Brittany then meet up for pickleball. Again, just more damn pickleball going on. It's the fastest growing sport in the nation. Oh my goodness. Anyways, Brittany started dating Jared Osmond. I think I said Jared Osborne in the last recap. It's Jared Osmond. Sorry about that. But Jared Osmond, they started dating after their exes got together. And she also notes that they've broken up 16 times over the past 7 months. Which is just fucking ridiculous, even factoring in exaggeration. It's and B, it's you guys are if you're not in high school, you want you guys are grown ass people. What the fuck? That's just ridiculous. I don't know. It's just really, really crazy. And the longest that Brittany's ever been single has been 8 months. And she also admits that she's sacrificed her kids for a man before. And in her confessional, Heather opens up about how, she and Brittany are both raised super Mormon, and the church really dictates, no, you put your man first. You can get into heaven without having kids, but not without a husband. You have to put your man first. And Heather notes that some of these struggles that Brittany deals with her children, because she's I guess she's estranged from them. We don't know much about it right now, but it really reminds her of what Mormonism is all about. You sacrifice that aspect for the man. That's what Brittany's done. So they're basically saying that Mormonism breeds that kind of mindset and ideology, essentially. So yeah, we then see Bronwyn visit Angie at the salon. Angie notes that she and her husband are opening up their 10th location, and business is booming. They also add that, thank goodness Salt Lake City is so damn vain. And having something similar in her first season as well, that Mormonism, it decrees that perfection is attainable. Basically, so that, helps Heather and her beauty spa, helps Angie and her various salons and whatnot. Beauty is attainable. Just gotta spend that fucking money for it. And as Bronwyn's chit-chatting with Angie, she notes that she really wants to meet her one-on-one, because Bronwyn is Lisa's friend, and Angie's going up against Lisa, so Angie's I was worried that, you would have a bad perception of me, and Bronwyn actually says that nothing that was said about Lisa was untrue, yeah, I understand why Whitney probably feels like she has to do what Lisa says. I understand why Angie said that about Lisa, I get it. That's kind of interesting, and again, it kind of hints at, the fallout between Lisa and Bronwyn later on. And Angie is really vibing with Bronwyn. She really enjoys her right now. We also learned that Bronwyn is not enjoying Brittany, which we already knew, but she's really not feeling her. She's really dumb and whatnot. And Angie says that Brittany mentioned Bronwyn's heart-shaped coat twice while meeting up, a couple days prior. And Bronwyn's wow, that's so weird of her. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think you mentioned that Brittany was talking shit about it. She's oh, she brought it up. I think Angie even said that Brittany said something nice about the coat. I don't really know, but Yeah, Bronwyn is just not feeling Brittany, and neither is Mary, and they fucking tag team the bitch later on. It is crazy. Finally, all the women meet up at the outdoor activity course. Of course, Mary is immediately put off by Brittany arriving. There's also awkward tension between Lisa and Whitney and Angie. Just kind of a lot of just tension within this friend group right now, basically. And after they all flop at the course, it is just like outdoor activity things just never really go well in Housewives. It is what it is. But after flopping, ladies all enjoy a food truck. And right as everyone sits down with their quesadillas and shit, Brittany initiates this really cringy toast, just basically talking about how Jared asked her to be her girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. It's like really cringy. And Bronwyn immediately rains on Brittany's parade.
He made it Instagram official, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a huge deal because he's never posted about anyone ever.
But the Instagram I saw, he said, my best friend, and you guys were at Costco. I'm not giving up anything to go to Costco with some guy to claim my ass.
And it is like kind of sad to see. It's like, aw, like she's like clearly excited and clearly happy about it. But at the same time, like you're this grown-ass woman, like, oh my gosh, he made it Instagram official, he has to be his girlfriend, when he posts this picture of her in this Costco shopping cart, which, by the way, how did she get the fuck out of there? How, like, why are you in, like, it? I have so many questions about it. Like, but anyways, and he also called her his best friend, and it's, like, so sad to see. But yeah, Bronwyn's like, I don't know about that. And then Mary, fucking Mary, she didn't ask, why do we care about this? Which, while it's very blunt, it's also kind of like, yeah, why are you, like... It's because this guy is her storyline, basically. And while Brittany calls this rude, Whitney and Lisa react by expressing some of their concerns about Jared. They're both kind of like, I think he's just getting what he wants, and he's just fucking you and, you know, not claiming you, like, just kind of telling her to, like, keep her eyes open, basically. And Brittany then mentions being estranged from her kids, basically, and I don't remember how exactly that segue worked. I think it was, like, Brittany was feeling kind of down, Heather chimed in, trying to be like, oh, guys, just be nice to her. She's, like, going through a lot right now with her kids, and, like trying to get the group to, like, you know, be nicer to her, basically. And so, yeah, she admits that, you know, she's had some tension with her daughters. They don't talk to her. And Mary goes for the jugular.
You need some soul searching, babe. Mary's not wrong.
I'm kind.
If you're kind, why can't you make amends with your children?
Of course, Brittany is not happy about this. She tries shutting Mary down, but Mary does not give a fuck. In the confessional, she also explains being triggered by the situation because her own mother prioritized men over her kids. And it's interesting because Mary admitted, like, oh, you know, she would be, like, all over this guy, but she'd have these 5 kids at home. We hadn't eaten. And I'm like, you were just made a big old deal about Brittany assuming that you were poor. And I was saying, oh, no, yeah, we didn't have anything to eat. And granted, it doesn't mean that she may have had nothing to eat in, like, a big old grand house. You know what I mean? But it's like shit like that made Brittany think she was connecting with you. And that's why I think Mary really overreacted with the whole, like, oh, you're calling me poor. Because, like, Mary was saying things that Brittany thought she was leading to that kind of conversation. You know, like, it didn't just come out of the fucking blue. It was not, like, pulled out of thin air. Like, come on now. But anyways, Brittany and Mary are just going at it at this point. But again, Mary just doesn't really give a fuck. But Brittany is not feeling well. She's, like, clearly struggling. And Bronwyn chimes in and she says that Brittany is unhinged. And this really pisses Heather off. And I don't blame Heather, because Bronwyn, of all people, is calling Brittany chaotic, saying she came in hot and wild. It's like, Bronwyn, you're coming onto the show hot and wild. You are chaotic. You are, like, who the fuck, like, Bronwyn of all fucking bitches to be calling someone else, like, chaotic? Like, come on, girl. So yeah, when Bronwyn tells Brittany to get her words tight and get her shit together, Heather claps back and she throws Bronwyn all the way under the bus. However, we then learn that Bronwyn admitted everything she said about Whitney to Whitney's face. She didn't say anything about Whitney, she didn't tell her herself. So therefore, by the rules of the universe, Bronwyn was not talking shit. She said it to Whitney's face. And Heather thinks she's like being a good old friend right now, but it is totally backfiring. In fact, Whitney actually thinks that Heather is like adding sauce, basically. She thinks that Heather is exaggerating what Bronwyn said. So it is really backfiring on her. And Angie then notes that, maybe Bronwyn wasn't feeling Whitney at first, and she had a change of heart, which happens, obviously, all the fucking time. And Bronwyn really feels left out to dry by Lisa in particular, because she thinks that Lisa is like, not chiming in, not shutting this shit down, because Lisa is her friend, so Bronwyn really dislikes that, and she stays upset about this to the next episode. And yeah, then oddly, Whitney and Lisa then get into it again, like, kind of out of nowhere, and Meredith, of course, she backs Lisa up. Heather does not jump in and pile on this time, so she's being a good cousin, it seems. And right before announcing the Milwaukee trip, Whitney apologizes to Lisa, which of course really pisses Meredith off. And then Meredith makes this big old deal like, oh, I don't know if I'll make it to the Milwaukee trip, I'll see. So Whitney is unfazed and could not care less.
And I don't necessarily want to go to Milwaukee with Whitney.
I might not be going. Good, I hope you don't.
Segueing to episode 3, Basketball, Bobbleheads, and the Brow Girl. Which, by the way, when I saw the title, I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, what? Okay, like, I hate when titles are just so long like that. It's just, whatever. Anyways, it kicks out with everyone getting ready for the Milwaukee trip, which Meredith is going on, of course, big surprise there. And during a little montage, it became apparent that Bronwyn, who has 7 dogs, all named after like different House of Cards character or whatever, I've never seen it, so I don't know the context, but she has 7 dogs, she doesn't know how to pick them up right.
Is the plane big enough for all of you and all the egos that are going on there?
And all the fights?
And all the
I
attitude?
don't think so.
Like, seeing her do that made me cringe so hard. You're not supposed to pick up dogs like that. It can really hurt their, like, little arms or shoulders. You're supposed to pick them up, like, in the little belly area. Like, it's this whole thing. But yeah, seeing that was like, oh my god, like, girl, your poor damn dogs. Anyways, Bronwyn also notes that she's really surprised that Lisa didn't, like, defend her at the ropes course. She's really feeling some type of way about it. She confronts her later on, because again, Bronwyn did not come to play. And then we get the taglines, and the losers are Heather and Meredith. Theirs were very fucking bad.
I've got the receipts, proof, and the screenshots. I'm known for my tub, and this year I am bathing in glory.
Like, I'm known for my tub. Like, girl, are you kidding me? And of course, Heather, the receipts, the screenshots, the timelines. Like, I am over it. I am over that phrase. It is not that iconic. Like, it's just beaten to death like a dead horse. Like, oh my god. Well, I kind of combined 2 different phrases. It's being beat to death, and it's like beating a dead horse. I combined them into one. You're welcome. Anyways, Heather and Meredith are the worst, though I think that Angie and Mary had the best ones.
You may have been in a sorority, but I'm Greek for life, baby. God is my shepherd, and you all look like sheep.
Speaking of Angie, she's ready to go all out for the Greek freak Giannis, I don't know his last name, because they're going to be going to a Bucks game, and she just wants to really show out and whatnot. So, of course, seeing Angie doing her thing with that. And she also tells her husband that her brow girl told her that Jared Osmond, Brittany's boyfriend, has been DMing her, flirting with her. Apparently, he even said that he and Brittany aren't together. And mind you, this bitch just made a whole fucking toast, like, made herself look like an idiot, and I don't know, it's so awful to see. So Angie's really trying to, like, debate what to do. She's like, I don't really know Brittany that well. I would want someone to tell me this stuff. I know how it feels to have your relationship being talked about, but I don't know. She wants to be a girl's girl and let Brittany know. But the thing is, she doesn't, come to Brittany and let her know up front. Brittany has to overhear Angie talking about with Bronwyn to, like, learn about it. It's like, okay, Angie, I'm going to be a girl's girl. Yeah, be a girl's girl talking about it 3 feet away from her. And, like, at least she told her, though. Good for Angie, but it's like, she could have done it more gracefully, I must say. And it's now the morning of the trip. It is 4 a.m., and everybody, sans Mary, who's going separately, they'll meet up at the airport. And of course, Bronwyn is still upset with Lisa. She feels like Lisa should have had her back. She feels some way about it. And mind you, Lisa is like her longtime friend. She doesn't really know anyone else that well. And now she feels weird coming onto this trip like that. But that's a good chance for her to like make bonds with other ladies. She's cool with Angie now. So, there's that going on. And Meredith moves some plans around to attend the trip. It's just like, of course you did, We all know you're gonna come, Meredith. You need the fucking check. I don't know if she needs the check, but you're not gonna get paid if you don't come, bitch. Like, you better be there. And when Mary gets there, she shares an interesting story about her father, because he allegedly lived like a block away from Jeffrey Dahmer. And when he'd be going to work in the morning, he'd be like, I smell this like foul stench going on, this weird smell. And he was caught like a week later. That was her story about that. And people are like, you know what? If Mary could smell hospital, I'm sure that her father smelled Dahmer going on. Like, she gets that from him, that's basically. That was from Twitter. And once everyone's settling into the hotel and whatnot, we learn more about Maylee. She has like 4 or 5 kids. I think it's 4 kids. So yeah, she's super busy. She and Whitney knew each other from back in high school. They like ran in the same circle and whatnot. So yeah, she's just a mother. I don't know what she does for work or anything, but we learned that about her. Lisa also shares that Jack is having some health problems in Colombia, but he doesn't want Lisa to come and like rescue him. He's like, no, I got house on my own. She's really dealing with that, and it's really hard for Lisa to deal with right now. And side note, at dinner, Mary and Brittany are next to each other. And I just know Mary must have been fucking thrilled about that. Like, they always rap next to each other. It's just like, how? Why? Like, don't do this to yourself. The women then split up into different groups, one heading to like the world's largest bobblehead museum, and the other heading to this big old casino. While getting ready, Mary's son calls asking for money, and Brittany tries calling Jared Osmond on FaceTime, but he leaves her hanging. This whole fucking thing. And Andy checks in with Bronwyn, probably because she felt like the vibes are off. Because again, Bronwyn has just been kind of out of it. She's been like, I can't believe Lisa left me out to dry like that, blah, blah, blah. And Bronwyn notes that the situation was a lot from the ropes course. She was like, oh my gosh, my soul left my body. I'm very upset with Heather, but I am furious with Lisa for like hanging her out to dry. Because again, she doesn't really know Heather like that. She's just some bitch on the street, basically. But Lisa's her friend, so that's why she's upset about that. And Bronwyn also adds that in the car ride, Lisa is saying much worse things about Maylee. And we then get a flashback, and it shows footage of Lisa alleging that word on the street is that Maylee's about to get blacklisted from Nordstrom over excessive returns. And Lisa's all laughing about that, gossiping about it. So Bronwyn's like, okay, so what I said about Whitney was so bad. And it really wasn't. She just said, like, oh, Whitney was, like, basically being a try-hard, and she thought was hilarious, basically, some shit like that. But, like, it wasn't that. Now you're alleging that, oh, Maylee's this, like, borderline scammer. You know what I mean? Like, oh, excessive returns, oh my gosh. Like, calling her broke or some shit. Like, I'm not sure, but... So yeah, she brings that up, and Bronwyn notes that she feels scapegoated. But yeah, Bronwyn brings it up because she says that she feels scapegoated and she is ready to go there. And she notes that she's not throwing Lisa under the bus, but she is turning the bus on, which I love. We get a quick side scene of Heather and Whitney meeting up in the room. They can't just have a drink real quickly because Whitney's going to the Bobblehead Museum while Heather's going to the casino. So they're just having a little meeting of the minds real quickly. And they discuss their situations with Bronwyn and Meredith, respectively. So they're like, what's really going on? Like, the vibes are basically off. And Whitney thinks that Bronwyn likes her, but again, Heather thinks that Bronwyn is a bullshitter, basically. Then we get the museum and casino. The museum is just very straightforward, a little scavenger hunt. Talk about the Golden Girls, nothing too crazy. And at the casino, we see Lisa giving Brittany some advice about Jared. She's basically like, you're gonna have to cut him loose unless he makes some serious changes. Just trying to really help her, get her shit together. She also tells her to, not make him her entire personality, all that jazz. And Heather and Meredith, they step aside real quickly. And Meredith alleges that Whitney is getting jewelry designs off of Alibaba. and we get receipts as well. And these show Whitney's company and Alibaba, they have like the same designs, the same like featured image and whatnot. So yeah, this is just awful.
Saying Whitney is using designs off of Alibaba and selling them at like 10, 20 times the price and using the same stock photos and stuff like that.
Heather thinks that someone is out to get Whitney because Meredith's emphasizing that like, I'm not making this up. Like, I'm not bringing this out there. This is on the street. This is on the internet. Like, I've been tagging this hundreds of times. The same old jazz. But again, you know, you're the one bringing it to the show. Heather claims that she had no idea about this, but you can't trust a word that Heather fucking says. But yeah, so Heather's reacting to that, and she thinks that Meredith should let Whitney know and give her a heads up. But Meredith thinks that Heather should do this, and she's just kind of over Whitney right now. And she made a comment like, oh, like, I've been in the industry for like 15 years. I would have never let this happen. It's kind of like, is that why you're bringing this up? Kind of like, oh, you didn't take my help? Now look, bitch. It's like, it just felt kind of odd and kind of vindictive. It's now time for the Bucks game, and the women, they have their own like presidential suite, like little penthouse area, whatever. But they're sitting like right on the court during warm-ups. They all meet Damian Lillard. And once in the suite, we learn that Mary, A, doesn't use public restrooms, which is like, okay, you know, I get it. But she also notes that, you know, if she's gonna be out and about all day, her secret is using like a jumbo tampon, just putting that up there, and she notes that that helps out. So yeah, we learned that, and again, I'm glad to have Mary back on the show. I mean, she just brings that comedic relief. And again, I'm loving that I get to see this different side of Mary, because it seems like she and Angie are really having a good old time together, and I love to see that.
Angie, do you know how to dance? Let me get my music going.
That's a future HBCU excellence that we want you to know.
No, you don't. Okay, hold on. Yeah, perfect. That's good. Okay. I love you. Mary, yes.
And during the game, Brittany FaceTimes Jared again, though he actually answers this time. And Angie peeps this, and she begins telling Bronwyn about the whole Brow Girl story and whatnot. And mind you, she is like 2 feet away from Brittany right now. It is like so reckless. From screenshots, we see Jared, you know, saying that he and Brittany aren't together. And when Bronwyn sees this, she's like, oh my gosh, I love that. Which I was kind of like, what do you mean? But I think she loves that he's like saying it so black and white, no room for misinterpretation. I don't think she's saying that she loves that Brittany is like looking like a dumbass. I think she loves that like he's caught. You know what I mean? Like he's saying it black and white, you know, like I'm not claiming the bitch. Of course, Brittany winds up overhearing Angie and Bronwyn, and she joins the conversation, and Angie tells her what's up. She's like, you know, my brow girl's saying that Jared is DMing her, messaging her. It's been like within the last 2 weeks. And, you know, of course, Brittany's upset about this. She walks off. Meredith follows her to comfort her, which I'm really glad someone went after Brittany. I was worried that, like, no one would go after her, but Meredith did. It's like, you need to have someone go after her, you know what I mean? It just is what it is. Lisa then tries talking to Bronwyn about the museum, because Lisa was at the casino, and she's like, oh, how'd the museum go? And we get a flashback from, you know, this conversation that Bronwyn had with Maylee. And I guess Maylee was confronting Bronwyn about talking shit about her style or whatever. And Bronwyn made Maylee aware that Lisa is the one she should be talking to about this. So again, this is where Bronwyn kind of threw Lisa under the bus. She told Maylee that, hey, Lisa's talking shit about you. If you have this concern about people talking shit about your style, handle it with Lisa. And Maylee hears her name come up, so she joins the conversation and confronts Lisa. Of course, Lisa's like, it wasn't that serious. And Bronwyn's like, oh, so you could say this shit and just brush it off as not being serious, but I can't do the same thing. And that's her whole thing. She's like, I'm getting blamed for being a shit talker, as if you other bitches weren't talking shit as well. Which again, Bronwyn is coming in swinging. And she notes that, you know, if they're gonna be messy, they have to let everyone be messy. So they have to all give each other a little bit of a pass. Including Heather to her, because she's upset about Heather throwing her under the bus, like throwing her out there. Basically, she's upset with Heather for like initiating the issue, and she's upset with Lisa for like leaving Bronwyn out to dry, basically. That's how she's seeing the situation. And regarding this allegation, Lisa feels like she did everything that she could in that moment. But Bronwyn says that if the shoe were on the other foot, things would not be okay. Like, this would not be kosher if I left you out to dry like that. Which I think is accurate, considering how Lisa operates, to be honest. And then Heather is roped into the conversation. And Bronwyn says that if they're gonna have a relationship, they're gonna have to get correct about a couple of things. Like, almost gets all fucking tough and shit. And Heather's like, excuse me? Like, what the fuck is this? Bronwyn accuses Heather of trying to make the issue look like a one-sided matter. And she also again notes that everything she said about Whitney in that car, she said to Whitney's face. Which again, by like, the rules of the streets, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean you're talking shit. Like, you say the shit to their face, you're not talking shit. You're just being honest, basically. And Heather, again, she doesn't trust Bronwyn whatsoever. Though Whitney thinks that this is because Heather's, like, holding on to being burned by Monica. She's, like, very distrusting of, like, these new people coming in. Heather did note that Bronwyn kind of reminds her of Monica with how she's, like, talking all this shit without knowing someone, you know, all that kind of jazz. And yeah, as Heather kind of goes in on Bronwyn mentions both Heather and Lisa, saying that Whitney plays her trauma up when she wants to and downplays it when she doesn't. Again, emphasizing, you guys are upset at me for talking shit about Whitney, but you are also talking shit about Whitney. And Bronwyn adds, hey, you guys are her longtime friends. And that's not worse? I already know the bitch. You guys know her, and you have known her for years. And yes, well, that means that, you know, the relationships become more complex. You're saying you don't like Whitney. So why do you care, Heather? So yeah, again, the overall theme is Heather, like, trying to be a friend, but flopping, and just being annoying in general. And Bronwyn coming in swinging. So there's that going on. Let me know what you think about Bronwyn down in the comment section. Be sure to like and subscribe as well. And of course, stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching. Bye.